Welcome. I'm Michael Laliberte, the college president, and welcome to the incoming classes of new students to SUNY Delhi. I am delighted to welcome more than 800 new students who are joining our SUNY Delhi community today, becoming the present and future of SUNY Delhi. I know that about a year ago, you were engaged in the process of trying to make up your minds about where you wanted to spend your collegiate years and just what exactly you wanted to study. You were also involved in other activities that were preparing you to take the next step in your academic pursuits, such as finishing high school, studying for the SAT, or readying yourself for a life on campus. Then, in early 2020, all that changed. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we were all forced into a new reality, one that included staying indoors, staying online, wearing masks, and of course, dealing with the horrific illness that has touched so many of our lives. This was not the reality that any of us were expecting or that we anticipated. This new way of being created an air of uncertainty and anxiety that made us fearful and questioning our future. However, by your presence here today, you have shown that you have persevered. You are showing us at SUNY Delhi and the rest of the world that you are able to deal with adversity and challenges, and you are willing and capable to be flexible, adaptable, and accommodating as you continue on the path in pursuit of your goals and your dreams. This is what we call grit. According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, grit is defined as having firmness of character and indomitable spirit. Characteristics of grit include courage, conscientiousness, persistence, resilience, and excellence. These are characteristics that you have already displayed in some form in order to be with us this academic year. At SUNY Delhi, we recognize grit as a distinguishing trait demonstrated by many of our most successful students and alumni, as well as in our talented faculty and staff. Your grit has guided you thus far in your life and will continue with you on your path to excellence in pursuit of your goals. We celebrate that aspect of each and every one of you today. As you know, a pandemic is not for the faint of heart or for quitters. Grit is what drives you and will be your constant companion now and well into your bright future. We are excited to have you join our community and look forward to assisting you in further developing your skills and characteristics in order for you to become your best selves. To complement your academic curriculum, the campus community provides opportunities to learn outside of the classroom. This year, in addition to COVID-19, our country has been fraught with protests and demonstrations that are calling attention to the many injustices that have been inflicted upon people of color in our country, in particular, Black and African American people. The Black Lives Matter movement has called our attention to some of the issues and disparities that exist in our society. In order to have a society that is able and willing to address these disparities, everyone needs to be educated on how and why these issues have come to exist, as well as how to respond and address these inequalities. At SUNY Delhi, we are committed to providing an education that will support our community, as well as ultimately improve our society. As such, throughout the academic year, there will be a number of anti-racist and decolonization workshops and programs provided so that you can begin this process of education. Delhi Today will contain announcements about these opportunities. I encourage each one of you to take advantage of these programs and workshops. Together, we can learn how we can improve ourselves, our community, and our society. It is opportunities like these that will provide you with the necessary skills and abilities to be successful in the ever-changing, diverse world in which we live. In closing, I warmly welcome all of you to the SUNY Delhi family. I look forward to having a productive, valuable, and memorable year where we will learn and grow together. Thank you.
Welcome to Convocation. I am Dr. Susan Deane, Interim Provost here at SUNY Delhi, and I am very excited to be starting the new academic year with you all. Although it may look very differently for all of us, starting or continuing your educational journey is what is important. On behalf of all the faculty and staff here at SUNY Delhi, we wish you all the successes and accomplishments throughout the school year. We are pleased to welcome Dr. Vijay Pendakur, Cornell University's Robert W. and Elizabeth C. Staley Dean of Students, and Presidential Advisor on Diversity and Equity, as our guest speaker for this year's convocation. Vijay has devoted his professional career to improve access, equity, and social justice for students in higher education, and his scholarly work focuses on diversity strategies, higher education administration, and leadership development. Vijay's wealth of experience and knowledge, as well as his humorous and approachable personality, is sure to captivate you in this session. Please welcome Dr. Vijay Pendakur.
Welcome, incoming class, to the fall convocation for the 2020 academic year. It is such a pleasure to be your convocation speaker. I can only imagine what many of you must be feeling starting your education at SUNY Delhi. I'm sure there's quite a bit of excitement and maybe even a little bit of anxiety about this big life change. All of those things are natural and perfectly healthy. Anytime we start big new things, particularly ones as important as college, it's only human to feel a mix of emotions to kick off the journey. And we are in unusual times. I can bet that you did not plan on starting your journey at Delhi in a pandemic. Well, please know that none of us wanted your start to be this way. I wish I could be with you in person in a warm, happy gathering right in the heart of your campus. But this virtual convocation will have to be our way for now. Speaking of unprecedented times, we are also in the middle of another season of major activism in our nation on core issues of racial justice, fairness, and inclusion. Did you catch that I said another season? For while this summer's activism has been impressive, and we've started to see some shifts in our society as a result, the movement for full inclusion is as old as the history of racial exclusion in this nation. Across those centuries, there have been countless major movements for racial justice, each holding the potential for incremental change and the potential to help this country live up to its full ideal. Your institutional leadership at SUNY Delhi invited me to serve as your convocation speaker today because they too believe that this is a potent moment for racial equity and wanted me to share some thoughts that may challenge and inspire you to get involved and make a difference. Over the next 10 minutes or so, I would love to tell you a little bit about myself and some of the experiences that made me commit my life to this work. I'll then explain at a high level what diversity, inclusion, and equity are. And finally, I'll wrap up with some ideas on how and why equity and justice work broadly is all of our work, including you. My parents are immigrants from two villages in southern India. They came to North America in 1969 and eventually made their home in Chicago. I grew up at the northern edge of the city, right at the street that separates Chicago from a suburb called Evanston. Sociologists would call my neighborhood a borderland, a space between two cultural zones. My borderland experience had a profound and lasting effect on the arc of my whole life until now. See, my neighborhood was predominantly Black, with some pockets of new immigrants from Central America and the Caribbean. It was low income, and it had been for decades. It was high on crime, high on drug abuse, and filled with hopelessness. This was the north side of Chicago in the 1980s. And 2 miles away, there was a place that was predominantly white, upper income, and extremely well-resourced. Just 2 miles north, but it might as well have been a different planet. I used to ride the Chicago Transit Authority bus to high school. And over the 3-mile ride, the complexion, culture, and privilege level of that bus would change dramatically. When I turned 16, the bus once again became a largely Black and brown, low-income zone, as many of the kids from North Evanston got cars as presents, and stopped riding the bus. I went to a high school that was celebrated for its diversity, for how well resourced it was, and I hated it. High school was an unprecedented disaster for me. It felt like two worlds collided in that building. 3,000 kids with two different passports. And we were all supposed to coexist in one space. Needless to say, it just didn't work. Daily, weekly, monthly, I saw examples, extreme examples, of how the house you were born in seemed to shape so many experiences in your life. If you were lucky enough to be born 2 miles north of me, it appeared like things were quite rosy. I'd hear stories of sleepaway summer camps, and new cars for birthdays, and designer clothes at the change of seasons, and other markers of wealth and access. And if you grew up in my neighborhood, it appeared that there was a much higher chance that you were getting hit up for gang initiation by the time you cleared 8th grade. Violence and drugs were abundant, and despair was the eau de parfum. I graduated from high school with a strong sense that something was deeply broken with a society that could produce this kind of extremes. We don't control where we're born, but by the time I went to college, I had seen repeatedly that this singular factor had an enormous shaping power over someone's life. It doesn't make it impossible to succeed, but boy, there are fewer chances that it'll happen. Conversely, you're not guaranteed to succeed if you grow up in privilege and affluence, but you sure are more likely. So I went to college with all these feelings, not a lot of academic knowledge, but a deep, visceral sense that something isn't right. And I wanted to know what was going on. This inner sense of discomfort impelled me to take classes in history and ethnic studies and urban sociology and other disciplines that could offer answers to my burning questions. And while this academic journey was progressing, I also needed to make some money. So I searched for an on-campus job. On a total fluke, I walked into the Multicultural Student Center at my alma mater and asked if they had paying work. I didn't even know what a Multicultural Student Center was. I just wanted my minimum wage job. Well, that changed my life. That job changed everything. At the center, I met the first adults at college that truly looked out for me. They were interested in my story, and they were interested in me as a whole person. Because many of the activist and racial justice student organizations also met at the center for their weekly meetings, I got to see many of them in action while I was working my late night shifts. This encouraged me to join a few organizations, and I slowly gained an identity as a student activist. By the time I graduated from college, my coursework, my job at the center, and my participation in student organizations had fully shaped my college experience and made it so much better. There's a message here for you. You've got to get involved in something if you're going to squeeze the juice out of your time at SUNY Delhi. Why squeeze the juice? Well, because college, unfortunately, can be a transactional experience, or it can be transformational. It can be a place where you sleepwalk through some classes and write those tuition checks and leave with a facile diploma, or it can change who you are as a person. Who wouldn't choose the latter? I came into my true sense of self at college, just as you will at Delhi, if you take the risk and try new things. As you heard in the introduction that preceded my remarks, I've stayed committed to that inner feeling of unease and discomfort my whole life. Something isn't right here. And sadly, the inequalities and inequities that shaped my youth in the 1980s are still a hallmark of our society. So let me get to the academic stuff. I mean, this is a university convocation address, right? What do we mean by diversity, equity, and inclusion? 3 values that are really important to your university. Let me offer you a super basic, applicable way to understand these terms, just for the sake of this keynote. If this stuff is interesting to you, you will have many opportunities in college to explore these ideas in much greater detail and complexity. Diversity, at its most basic level, is just valuing difference. Seeing some greater good in having difference of all kinds in the room, in the school, in the workforce, in the government. Diversity pushes us to ask the important question, who's in the room? Inclusion is valuing the experiences of the people in that room. Do all those different people feel safe? Do they feel like they truly belong? Do people feel treated fairly? Inclusion requires us to go beyond just valuing difference and begin to understand and commit to the experience that people, especially people who aren't in the majority, have. Equity, that third term, is a bit more complicated. First, because it's often incorrectly used interchangeably with the word equality. Watch the news for 10 minutes, and you'll probably hear politicians say something like, "We need a more equal and equitable society." And they're using those words as synonyms when they're not. Equal is a powerful aspiration, especially in a country like America, where we live in the central contradiction of equal being baked into our founding documents, while our society was designed around numerous inequalities from the time of this same founding. We've been questing for equal for centuries, but equal is about the aspiration that everyone gets treated exactly the same. And while this is a key idea at a larger societal level, equity is actually a very different idea. Equity at its core is the idea that you can put a lot of different people in the room doing the work of diversity, and you can even treat them all nicely and fairly doing the work of inclusion. But if you really want to provide the conditions that optimize outcomes for people, you have to change the systems and structures that create the conditions of our experience. Equity is the process of transforming a school, a company, a team, or a country into a place that allows all of those different people to truly thrive. So while diversity is challenging us to ask who's in the room, and equity is challenging us to commit to those that are in the room being treated well, equity is pushing us to consider all the barriers to getting in the room in the first place, or the conditions in the room that will likely lead to some people succeeding at far greater rates than other people, to no merit of their own. Equity can get really complicated really quickly. And this is a convocation address, not a classroom lecture. So let me put it like this. We are living in a moment of extraordinary activism for racial equity. This is a movement focused on race. And the movement isn't saying, please just admit us into your organizations or your schools or your government, or please just treat us a little better. It's a movement calling for the fundamental transformation of the structures that produce differential and unfair outcomes for people of color in almost every sector of life, whether it be policing, the employment market, schools, or healthcare. This is a mass movement for racial equity, and it's about changing the fundamentals so people of color don't have to continue to just survive in this country, but they can actually begin to thrive. To be coy about it, inclusion might have us clapping that NASCAR finally decided to stop allowing folks to fly the Confederate flag inside their events. Equity is saying, that's nice, but let's look at all the barriers to meaningful participation that have kept people of color out of this lucrative industry since its founding. And let's do something about that. Diversity, inclusion, and equity are core values for SUNY Delhi. Your university leadership truly believe that a complete college education also means gaining some competence in these ideas and understanding how critical they are for our society, for American democracy to flourish. The good news is that there are so many ways for you to engage in the social transformation that these ideas call for. You can take classes on these subjects, or join student orgs that care about these ideas, or get a paying job where these ideas are in the job description. I mean, I've sort of made a career out of doing this work, you know? You can watch YouTube videos or TED Talks or TV shows or movies on these topics, and then talk with your friends about what you've been learning. You can name problematic behavior respectfully, even when it's your friends or family doing it. There are countless ways to make these values a part of your life at Delhi and beyond. And to help you get started this fall, the Mosaic Cultural Center at Delhi, in collaboration with other units on campus, will offer a semester-long 10-part series designed to assist you along your journey of unpacking some of the content that I just talked about. In addition, the Mosaic Multicultural Center will offer learning opportunities throughout the semester to help you think about your role in creating a better world where everyone can truly thrive. At the organizational level, Staff and faculty will continue their efforts within the Equity and Inclusion Advisory Board of reviewing and revising policy and practice so that SUNY Delhi becomes a place that is enriching as possible for all of its students, staff, and faculty. Let me conclude by saying how proud I am of each and every one of you. A college education can be a revolution, not just for the individual that experiences it, but also for their whole family. Some of you may be the first in your families to go to college, and I am especially beaming for you on this big day. Your journey isn't easy, but please know that the staff and faculty at Delhi have got your back. You can do this, incoming students, and we will all be here rooting for you throughout. Have a great start to the year.